Hello everyone. Today will be a little bit different, as this is a bit of a departure from a typical review. Instead, today we'll be doing more of a historical retrospective. In specifics, we will be talking about the history of WarioWare, the entire series today. And I hope you'll enjoy it. So, let's get right into it.
WarioWare got its start where all video games should, the N64DD.
What the hell is that?
Well, the N64DD is an incredibly obscure add-on to the N64. This was created to solve the storage limitations as well as the production costs associated with the cartridges at the time. Since a simple magnetic disc was simpler and way more cost-effective to produce than Mr. Environmentally Friendly over here, unfortunately, no one gave a piss about extra plastic that mated with their video game system, so the 64DD only sold around 15,000 units.
I should also mention the add-on was only released in Japan. And by my calculations, about 0.01% of the population even owned an N64DD. That's hilarious.
Anyways, one of the most prevalent series on the add-on was Mario Artist. With a whopping 3 titles plus an online expansion disc, this series was focused around making whatever the f*** your brain came up with that day. These titles were a follow-up to the SNES game Mario Paint, which, in that game, required a unique mouse accessory to play the game. The Mario Artist series also came bundled with a mouse designed for the N64.
Because everyone loves drawing with a f***ing mouse.
Mario Artist, in particular the Polygon Studio game, heavily inspired the first WarioWare game on the Game Boy Advance. The main inspiration stems from the Sound Bomber subgame.
Now whatever the f*** a sound bomber is, I do not want to know.
In this mode, the player would have to complete microgames at a rapid pace to continue forwards. Some games in the Sound Bomber mode bear an uncanny resemblance to games in the first WarioWare, as in, they are exactly the same with a different coat of paint, being piss and lean. Both series were developed in-house at Nintendo.
So the plagiarism charges have been waived.
The WarioWare minigames, being as whacked out as they are, were made by the minds at Nintendo writing down some wacky ideas on Post-its. They would stick these to the director's desk, and any deemed too Japanese or obscure were scrapped for ones more favorable towards casual players. The game was actually a secret and wasn't approved by Nintendo before development had actually started. Eventually, the team pitched the idea of a game filled with fast-paced microgames to their manager. The idea to use Wario as the main protagonist for the game was brought up because Wario is, quote, always doing stupid things and is really idiotic.
What a compliment!
Ultimately, the game was approved and released in Japan on March 21st, 2003, and in North America on May 26, 2003. The game was well liked among critics and fans alike. The game is an average WarioWare romp, with not much story to it, just some fun. Well, I guess there is kind of a story. The story is essentially just capitalism and corporate greed, though. Wario really just wants to monopolize the video game industry for whatever purposes he has for his moolah. He starts up his own video game company and hires the main WarioWare staples: Jimmy, Mona, Dribble and Spitz, Cat and Anna, 9volt, Dr. Krygor, and Orbulon. The minigames are all standard affairs, nothing too special. But speaking of the minigames, the GBA game was ported worldwide to the GameCube as WarioWare Incorporated Mega Party Games. This game strips out all story from the games and makes it more of a party game than anything else. The only other nice addition to this game's existence is the fact that it was slightly cheaper than a normal GameCube release, as it should have been. The game was praised for the multiplayer aspect of it, but slammed in literally every other aspect.
The game was developed in 6 months, better known as 2/3 of a pregnancy.
The GBA release also saw a re-release for the Wii U Virtual Console because for some dumbass reason they made GBA Virtual Console on Wii U and not 3DS.
But I can't complain about something that's disappearing from this earth. Now, let's move on to the second entry. WarioWare Twisted!
WarioWare Twisted is the second entry in the WarioWare franchise, this time with a new added gimmick: tormenting the Game Boy. This game features a gyroscope as well as a rumble pack to help with the immersion. Nintendo, of course, couldn't have built the gyro sensor themselves, so who better than NEC to pass the work on to? The gyro sensor in this game was specifically designed for this game, and Yoshi's universal gravitation, of course. Or if you want to be American about this, Yoshi Topsy-Turvy. Thankfully, this game works with both configurations of the GBA, as well as the DS and DS Lite, considering their position of slot 2. But it is official. It does not support the Game Boy player.
Come on!
It's okay, we can almost play it, we just need to tilt the whole damn GameCube. Anyways, the game was developed by the same team who made the first game, and it released in Japan on October 14th, 2004, in Australia on May 19th, 2005, and North America on May 23rd, 2005. Notice something odd? There was never a European release of this game. And with it being a special cartridge with a very odd quirk to it, it couldn't really get re-released on a virtual console. The reason for its absence over there was because of the excruciatingly long time it took to get an LGA certification, which is essentially a German classification board that, according to Wikipedia, inspects toys and furniture.
What the kind of company is this?
Anyways, Nintendo kept delaying the game to hopefully release it one day. However, the LGA team never gave this entry the go-ahead in the GBA's lifespan. So after Nintendo killed off the GBA line of systems, they gave up trying near the end of 2008. It's very unfortunate that one of the best WarioWare games released never saw the light of day in a European nation.
WarioWare Touch is next on the chopping block.
Released on December 2nd, 2004 in Japan, and later in North America on February 14th, 2005.
Honey, please, can we just have a normal Valentine's Day? I'd like to go out to dinner like literally everyone else does.
Honey, I am really sorry, but WarioWare Touch just came out today, and I need to see Mona on a new handheld.
WarioWare Twisted and Touched are the most linked together games in the series, being somewhat of a dual release. The team responsible for making Twisted was split up after the idea of Touch was brought up. Some were assigned to stay working on Twisted, whilst the others went on to work on Touched. Touch was actually a launch title in Japan for the DS, with the game coming out a little after launch in other regions. Touch is like Twisted, but instead uses a gimmick built into the DS instead of built into the cartridge. As the name implies, you use a DS stylus to touch the screen to successfully complete the microgames. The use of the microphone is also included for whatever fucking reason.
Break out those inhalers, kids.
Thankfully, the microphone utilization was only used in one character's level, Mike.
I hate him. He looks like a World War II veteran and his games suck ass.
Interestingly enough, this game was re-released on the 3DS as a My Nintendo reward. The whole game! Talk about an odd release. This is one of two full DS games re-released digitally on the 3DS, the other being The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Anniversary Edition. There's nothing enhanced about this version, just a full port of the original game on the DS. The story of this game bears a huge resemblance to the first game on GBA. Wario strolls upon a dual-screened handheld and develops games for it to, you guessed it, make money. The game was praised by critics and was only criticized for its slightly less enjoyability compared to other entries. This game was also re-released on the Wii U Virtual Console as a part of the DS line they put out. Kind of a worthless buy considering it's only around $30 complete.
Let's stop talking about the sadness of the Wii U Virtual Console and move on to something a bit more positive. This is a f***ing masterpiece.
WarioWare Smooth Moves is the first Wii entry we will be discussing together.
I know, I hate myself for that one too.
Released on December 2nd, 2006 in Japan, and varying dates in January in America, Europe, and Australia, this is the WarioWare I've easily had the most experience with. After beating the game and attempting to 100% it, I can vouch for the quality of this title. The story of this game is a bit more of a historical twist, in a WarioWare sense of course. The Form Baton, or how we know it, the Wiimote, is an ancient object that humans and spelunks live in harmony because of. In Diamond City, many years later, a certain spelunk steals Wario's food, and he chases it to the Temple of Form, where he learns about the existence of the Form Baton. The Form Baton quickly becomes Wario's, and he boasts about it to everyone he knows. This game uses motion controls to enhance the Wario-ness of this game, utilizing different positions to hold it in.
Some examples being the Mohawk, or the Big Cheese.
This game is very well put together, especially for being an early Wii game. Unfortunately, some of the minigames don't work very well and thus docked a few points from reviews, such as IGN's being an 8.2. However, it was also docked points because of its incredibly short length. This game is very affordable nowadays, and I'd highly recommend you pick it up for yourself. Now for some development history. The team who developed this game only consisted of 20 people.
For a game based on making really quirky microgames within a big game itself, that really surprised me.
The director of this title first thought of the idea for the game when the Wiimote was first shown to him. The idea for the different positions for the Wiimote was simply due to the lack of innovation by just holding the Wiimote one way. And the subtitle Smooth Moves comes from the motions that the player must perform to perfect the minigames. The developers thought of the motions like dancing, and thus the subtitle was born. Unfortunately, there is no widescreen mode for this game, which really sucks to play on modern displays.
Oh boy, we've reached the bottom of the barrel on this one.
WarioWare Snap released exclusively on DSiWare on Christmas Eve 2008 in Japan, and April 3rd and 5th, 2009 for Europe and North America respectively. This game's main gimmick is a DSi camera.
The camera on the DSi is an abysmal piece of shit, and nothing was special about it.
The game doesn't function well, and the game was plagued with development problems. The game was rated rather mediocrely, as it should be considering the poor functionality of the title. This game is only $5 on the 3DS eShop, since that's the only place you can still buy the game legitimately.
If you got an Abe Lincoln burning a hole in your wallet and you really want some quick camera action, do I have the game for you?
WarioWare DIY is the second and last entry on the Nintendo DS. Released on April 29, 2009 in Japan and Taiwan,
Well, there goes my social credit.
and March 28, 2010 in North America. This game, as the name implies, allows you to create your own microgames along with having 167 pre-made ones, all featuring the same lovable cast. The story for this one is Dr. Krygor has a dream about a Wii and a classic controller, as one does, and suddenly the characters emerge from the screen causing a stampede. He wakes up and invents the Super Maker-Matic 21 inspired by his dream. Don't ask. Alright, fine. It's a device that can make DS games that can also be played on the Wii. This is via the use of the companion title on WiiWare, WarioWare DIY Showcase. Wario goes into the repair shop Krygor works at and learns how easy the invention can make things. He sets off with Krygor to form a company that will rival Diamond Software. Unfortunately, many of the main characters we've come to love have gone to work with Diamond Software, so Wario has been stuck with Dr. Krygor, Penny, Young Cricket and Master Mantis, Dribble and Spitz, Cat and Anna, and 18-Volt. Wario hires the player to be an employee to help make games. This card has an interesting quirk, being added flash storage for more microgames. The idea for this was initially rejected because of a tight schedule, but it was later implemented. DIY Showcase is also technically a WarioWare game, being it has 72 pre-made microgames that the player can play. But this version had lots more internet-capable features, like contests and downloading other people's custom games. Both releases were praised, with the DS version scoring an 82 on Metacritic and the Wii counterpart scoring a 27 out of 30 on WeLoveIt.com.
Now on to the next generation of consoles. The Wii U generation! Yeah, I know. I hate it too. We have a bit of an odd one. Game & Wario. It's sort of a WarioWare game, but sort of isn't. Let me explain.
Game & Wario is the only Wario-related game on the system, and is considered a spiritual successor to WarioWare. Released on March 28, 2013 in Japan, and late June in America, Europe, and Australia, this game was always meant to be a tech demo, even during early development. This was meant to show off the Wii U gamepad's features and even be a pack-in title with the Wii U. Yeah, I always thought Piss and Lean Man was a wonderful choice for a pack-in. The game was ultimately deemed not pack-in worthy because of, funnily enough, too many ideas to be placed into a pack-in. The game was also originally not intended to be a Wario game, but after some experimentation, the developers thought Wario was best suited for the game. Wait, haven't we heard this before? That's right, it's the tale of the first game all over again! Nintendo themselves released a social media promotion for the title, dubbed... wait for it... Crowdfarter.
What in the...
The promotion was a spoof of Kickstarter and encouraged people to spread the word of Wario on Facebook and Twitter. People could collect coins and were given stretch goal incentives such as ringtones, wallpapers, and even an exclusive trailer for the game.
An example of one of the ringtones is this.
Hey, loser! Your phone's ringing!
Holy shit. What a masterpiece! Going into any minigame grants you with an incredibly disturbing image of the character that you will be playing as. Every game uses the gamepad in one way or another, but generally in pretty bland ways. You get tokens from completing games which you can use to unlock other goodies. One could say this game is sort of like the Wii Play of WarioWare. The game was rated around the middle of the road, with most critics stating that the minigames were really unoriginal and just plain unenjoyable.
WarioWare Gold. Surprisingly enough, the only entry on the 3DS. It was released very late in its life cycle, as in after the Switch came out, in June and August of 2018. Let's elaborate a little bit more on that one.
This game is a compilation of most older WarioWare titles, with a notable exception being Snapped.
Good.
The story, however, is completely original, with Wario organizing a 3DS gaming tournament to steal copious amounts of money from his friends. This is the first WarioWare game with full voice acting, surprisingly being on a platform with very little voice acting on any other titles. It's very good and sounds very clear. Charles Martinet, the famous voice of male Mario characters in English-speaking territories, returns to play the role of Wario. The idea of WarioWare Gold, being the minigame compilation of all previous games,
Except for Snapped!
had been experimented with since the days of the DS. However, the project was too taxing for the hardware at the time, so they ultimately scrapped the idea until the time and hardware was right. Each character has their own mini-story involving themselves and some slight problem or goal. For example, Dribble and Spitz are in space looking for a fare when an asteroid field appears and there's no other way but forward. WarioWare Gold generally received positive reviews, being a collection of great minigames and a great return to form.
Finally, on to the most recent entry in the WarioWare franchise, WarioWare Get It Together, released on September 10th, 2021.
Being the only game released on Switch, it is the first true WarioWare in HD.
Game & Wario does not count!
The premise of this game is Wario and his friends are working at WarioWare Inc., and Wario finishes the game unit the team has been developing. They go to turn it on, but the console doesn't end up functioning. Wario gets absolutely pissed and throws the console in the air. Wario, along with the rest of the team, gets sucked inside and get turned into their digitized versions. Thus, the characters are what you have to control inside the microgames, not just the microgame itself. Wario and the guys have to defeat bugs to progress through the title. However, that's only half the story. Upon defeating the alpha bug and exiting the game world with most of his friends, does Wario notice that 3 of them are stuck inside. He re-enters and finds out that the game bugs were not up to this. Rather, a mysterious source took them away. This title is heavily multiplayer focused, mainly allowing the campaign to be played via co-op as well as single player. The game was very highly praised, and the new playstyle is favored by many, but not so much by me.
All in all, the WarioWare series, like many other series, has had some very high highs and one considerable low. And if you're ever in the mood to play some 5-second long microgames jotted down by people on the post-it notes, then you really can't do much better than WarioWare. But that WarioWare Snap, that fucking WarioWare Snap, you know what? I've snapped! I can't take any more of this shit! WarioWare Snapped is a crime against all humanity! The DSi camera doesn't do jack shit. I can't legally keep my sanity anymore. I have to declare my independence, and furthermore, that game